Hey everyone, back in the shop again today. We have another toy making video for you today. Thanks for stopping by my YouTube channel. My name is Luther from Luther's Woodworking. Today's project is going to be a little plane here. Very small, just perfect for your child's hand. Very easy to make, doesn't take much lumber to make this plane. You're not going to want to just make one, you're going to want to make a whole bunch of these. So we're going to get started making this plane. I'm going to step you through every step in making this plane. This is my own design, so let me get the camera moved so you can actually see what I'm doing here, and we'll get started on this project. Alright guys, we are at the workbench here. If you watched any of my other videos on my channel, you'll know that I make all the sample blocks here for my toys. I got all the information written on the block, the size of it, the thickness, everything that I need, the shape. So when I want to make more of these toys, I can just grab this block and look. Then you got the propeller right here. All the measurements are on it. And then you got the main body shape right here, and all the information's written on that. So it helps if you're going to make more than one of these airplanes. That really helps, and you don't have to sit and do all kinds of measuring. So this plane is actually made out of 3/4 inch material. This is just a piece of scrap 3/4 inch board that I found. First thing you're going to want to do is trace that on that piece of wood, and then we'll cut that out first. So let me just we'll just trace that on there. And this is so easy. These planes are so easy to make. You're going to want to make a lot more of these once you get going. We just trace that on there. And it's also got on here where the actual axle goes for the wheel right here. So that gets traced too. So you just basically trace that pattern on your block of wood. We're going to cut this out. And then also you got the wing. We'll cut that out later. I actually cut these out of 2x4s. This is a 1/4 inch thick. Right around a 1/4 inch. Could be maybe a little thicker if you want. Just depends on what you got laying around. And then it's got the little notch out here. So it's just a matter of cutting your pieces of wood and then tracing that little notch and cutting that out. Also, on this plane, we use 2 1.25 inch wheels. This is an 1.25 inch wheel right here that we use for this here. I'll have the information up on the screen on the right hand corner there for this wheel that you can purchase at craftparts.com. Then also we are going to be using a dowel for the axle. This is a 1/4 inch dowel for the axle. So we should be all set there. And then also we have an axle peg right here. This, and I'll have all the information for that axle peg up in the corner of the screen that you can buy. That is actually used for the propeller. You put that in the propeller right there, and then you can spin that propeller on that axle peg. That will go, in the front right here. So that is all we need for this plane. There's really not a lot involved in making this plane. So let's head over to the scroll saw. We'll cut this main body out, and then we'll go over to the drill press and drill this hole for the axle to go through. And then we'll head back over here to the workbench. Alright guys, here at the scroll saw here, like I said, pattern's all traced out. It's not going to take very long to cut this out. Very easy, very quick. Okay, so that was pretty quick for the body for your airplane. We're going to head over to the drill press. We're going to drill this hole for the axle, and also we have to drill a hole for the propeller, that little pin that goes into the holes of the propeller. On my pattern here, you'll notice there's a little line there. That's going to tell me where to mark for my hole for that propeller. It's right here, if you can see. So you mark it right here, and that's the line that kind of draw it across there. You can see that we're going to drill that hole. We're going to drill that hole right in the center, basically for your axle pin to fit in there to hold that propeller on. So we're going to head over to the drill press and get this hole drilled and this hole drilled. All right, the hole for the axle is going to be a 9/32 inch hole for the axle. In past videos, I use a lot of these. I use this drill bit gauge to determine the hole size for, like, say, axle pegs or dowels and things. And let me just grab a dowel here for this axle, because we're using a 1/4 inch dowel for an axle. What I do, instead of drilling a 1/4 inch hole, you want it a little bigger because you want your axle to spin. So this would be a 1/4 inch hole here. I go up 2 sizes. I go up 2 sizes to 9/32. That should make that dowel spin real good in that hole. So that's what it's going to be, a 9/32. Now, as far as the hole that holds this axle peg in for the propeller, this axle peg is a 7/32 tenon. So here's a 7/32 tenon. Fits in that hole really tight. So what I do is I go up the next size. That way, when I drill that hole and I glue this in, my airplane front here, the hole is going to be just a little bit bigger, so I can add glue and it'll sit in there really nice. So them are the 2 sizes, 9/32 and 7, and this is actually a 15/64 hole that I'm going to drill in the front here. So let's drill the hole for the axle first. And there's the hole for the axle. And like I said, you want to make sure that hole is big enough so your axle will spin. The next hole we're going to drill is this hole for the propeller. So we'll change our drill bit here. And this is going to be a 15/64 inch hole. That's one size bigger. That's one size bigger than the tenon on this axle peg. Axle peg's a 7/32 tenon. One size bigger is 15/64. And that'll be a good size hole to glue that axle peg in there. Now, if we're only going to do one airplane right now, so if I was going to do more airplanes, I would set this up a little different. We're just going to bring this down far enough to drill that hole. And then lock your drill press in. Now, if I was going to do a lot more of these airplanes, I probably would set up my fence and stuff. I'm just going to hold it like this. You can see this hole is just exactly right in the center of this front of this plane. And you don't have to go real deep with this, because the actual peg will fit on this propeller, and then it'll sit on the plane like this. So you got to go in, you know, a pretty good distance, but you want to leave enough space so you can spin your propeller and not have it real sloppy like that. So we'll just kind of take this and drill in a little bit. We'll just hold it, make sure you hold it nice and tight. And we'll try it a couple times. See, now I got to go a little deeper. So we'll just okay, so that one is pretty good. So this here is for the propeller right there. And you want to kind of make sure you get that centered, and that'll work good. So you can glue this axle peg in the front of this plane. So now that you got your holes all drilled, we're going to head back over to the workbench and work on the actual wing and this here propeller. All right, here back at the workbench. Now, we have the holes all drilled here. Got the body of the plane cut out. Next thing we're going to do is actually cut this little propeller that fits in the front of the plane right here. This little propeller. This actually is 3/4 inches wide. So what works nice, the way I do it, is I just take a piece of 3/4 inch board, and you can use pine or anything you want, and it's the same thickness, 3/4 inch, same thickness as that propeller. And what we're going to do, and what I do, is I'll go over to my bandsaw, and I'll set my bandsaw up to cut real thin strips, and I'll just cut a strip out of here, the same thickness as this propeller, and then you can cut a whole bunch of propellers out of that. So that's what we're going to do. Go over to the bandsaw and cut a strip of this off of the 3/4 inch pine board here. This actual propeller is about it's a little more than 1/4 inch thick. It can be 1/4 inch thick if you like. I think I got it just a little bit more than 1/4 inch thick. Whatever you come up with will be fine. So let's head over to the bandsaw and rip a piece of this board for the propeller. All right, at the bandsaw here, what I did was set my fence up the same thickness as this propeller. Whatever thickness you come up with, it can be 1/4 inch. I wouldn't go any less than 1/4 inch, but this is a little bit more than 1/4 inch thickness. And because it's the same thickness as a piece of wood, 3/4 inch board, you can just take a 3/4 inch board and run this through and make a whole bunch of these propellers. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so here's my long strip I cut. Same width as the propeller and the same thickness. All we have to do now is mark this out and cut a whole bunch of propellers. Obviously we only need one because we're only making one today, but you can make as many as these you want. So let's head back over to the workbench and we'll start on making the actual wing. Now, before we go over there, what we could do we could take our bandsaw. Get this out of here. We could take our bandsaw and set it up to the length of this propeller. Kind of get it somewhat to the length of this propeller. Right there, we got it to the length. And what we could do is just sit and cut a bunch of these propellers. Okay, so that's a real easy way to make a bunch of these propellers. So now, basically all you got to do is drill that hole in the middle of that propeller and a little sanding. So let's head over to the drill press and drill that hole in that propeller. All right, so the hole that's in this propeller right here is the same size of hole that we put in the front part of this plane, because you want that propeller loose enough to spin on that axle peg. You want it to spin on the axle peg. So it's the same size of hole that you put in the front of this plane. So all we're going to do is take, here's my sample piece right here with all the information on it. What you can do is just set that right on that here. And you can just mark where the hole's got to be. Basically in the middle. Nothing too fancy about it. So we're just going to take that and drill a hole in there. And there you have a propeller. It's got to be all sanded yet, but basically really easy to make. Make sure you make yourself some templates so you don't have to do any measuring or anything. Let's head back over to the workbench and work on the wing. Alright, so as far as the wing goes on the plane, using your template, here's the template. The wing is 1.5 inches wide, and I have it 3/8 thick. And then it's actually, it's about 4¼ inches long. There's a number of ways you can make this wing. Now, I got it 3/4 inches thick. It doesn't have to be. It could be 1/4 inch thick. I don't think I'd go any thinner, but for some reason I just decided 3/8 of an inch thick was a good size. It's whatever you got laying around your shop. Couple ways you can do the wing. What I did one way is you just take 1.5 inch piece of wood, 3/4 inch thick, and I set up my bandsaw to actually cut right down the middle of this board, right down the middle. If you take 3/4 and divide it by 2, you're going to come up with 3/8. And that's exactly what I did on here. I took a piece of 3/4 board, I cut it right down the middle, ended up with 2 pieces, 1.5 inch wide, 3/8 thick, right down the middle with the bandsaw. Now all I have to do is take my sample here, and I can just mark out the length of a couple wings. That's one way you can do it. Another way you can do it, you can just use, and I know I mentioned it in the beginning of the video, you can just use 2x4 or 2x6 because they're automatically 1.5 inches thick. You can take this and run this through your bandsaw and cut it 3/8 thick, and you'd have a wing. Or if you don't have a bandsaw, you could do the same thing on a table saw. So that's basically how I do my wings. either cut a piece of wood in half or use 2x4s because they're already 1.5 thick. If you got 1/4 material laying around the shop that's 1.5, you could do that. Whatever you come up with the wing. So I'm not going to show you the actual cutting of that. We have some pieces here that I cut from a board. We're just going to take and mark them off. Grab my pencil here. And all you got to do is just basically lay your piece on there, your wing, your sample, and mark out where you got to cut it. And then you got that wing, it's got that little notch. You can see it's got a little notch in it right here. You got to make sure you put that in there. So that's going to go like this. And now what we're going to do, we're just going to cut this wing across right here and cut this little notch out, and you're going to have a wing. So let's head over to the scroll saw. We'll cut that out with the scroll saw. It doesn't have to be real fancy because everything's going to be sanded here. So let's go over to the scroll saw and get that cut. Alright, so basically we're just going to cut this piece off here that we marked out for the wing. And then as far as this little notch right here, we're just going to cut that little notch out. And there you have it. You got the wing. It's not sanded yet, but basically that's all you got to do right there. Just head back over to the workbench and talk a little bit more what's got to go on. Alright, so you got your body cut out, you got your propeller cut, ready to go. You got your wing. That's going to sit on there like this here. And now all we got to do is work on the wheels. Like I said, we're using 1/4 dowels for the wheels. One thing I've mentioned in the past videos, where I buy my wheels is the same place I buy my dowels. It helps a lot because you want your wheels to slide on them dowels really nice. Just because it says a 1/4 dowel and this wheel has a 1/4 hole, it doesn't mean it's going to always fit. You might have to sand the dowel down a little bit to make it fit. This one fits really nice. So what I do is I put a wheel on this dowel. I'll slide this dowel through this plane right here, if you can see. And I'll line it up. And then I'll put another wheel on right here. And see how I got that lined up? We're just going to put a little mark on this dowel here. And that's where I'm going to end up cutting that dowel right on that little mark right there. I don't know if you can see it, but that's going to be the length of our axle. So I'm going to run over to the scroll saw. I'm just going to cut this dowel off here, and I'll be right back. All right, back. Now, so we have our axle cut. Put that through there. We have our other one right here. And once we glue these wheels on there, everything's going to work really nice. And then we have our propeller that sits up there. And then we have our wing. But now we have to basically sand everything. Starting to look like a plane. Basically we got to sand everything. And you can see on my templates here, or here's the plane I got done right here. Everything's just sanded, rounded edges, all softened up really nice. So there's no places you can get slivers and nothing. So basically, let me get this all sanded up nice, and then we'll go through the process of gluing this all together. Alright guys, we are back here. I got everything all sanded on this airplane. You can see right here, I got all the edges here nice and rounded and sanded smooth on the wing. Also on the propeller here, got everything all sanded smooth, and then we did the body too, got everything all sanded smooth. One thing I want to mention, if you want to paint this plane or put any different color on it, you want to do that at this point right now, because once it's all put together, it's kind of hard to paint anything you want. Sometimes I paint just the wing a different color, like on this one here, I just painted the front part of the airplane right here. You might want to just paint the wheels black. So do that before you do any gluing to put this together. Otherwise, you can just glue it together with no paint. Just leave it all natural. First thing you're going to want to do is pop the wheels on. And so we're just going to stick put a little glue. Stick a little glue here in the wheel. That you're going to have a little glue come out, but stick some glue in a wheel, put one wheel in like this, flush, and then you're going to do the same thing over here. Just stick some glue in the wheel here. Kind of give it a couple twists. And you want to make sure that your axle comes right to the edge. Everything's nice and flush to the edge. And you want to make sure your wheels turn. That's really important. So as this is drying, every once in a while, take your plane and move it like this and make sure the wheels turn, so there's no glue sticking in any place. Next thing we can do is stick some glue down the front hole right here, just a little bit, and put this axle peg in for the propeller. Once that's dry, that'll spin really nice. And then once you got that, you're going to glue this wing on. And that's why I say do the wheels first, then the propeller. Then if you're doing a whole bunch of these airplanes, you can just sit and set the wing right on there. One thing I want to mention, as you're doing these planes, this top part right here, that's where the actual wing gets glued on. And you cut this out with your scroll saw. You want to make sure this is nice and flat, so your wing sits on there nice and flat. If it's not nice and flat, you can just take this on your belt sander and just kind of touch it just to get this nice and flat, because you want a nice gluing surface for this wing. So we're just going to put a little glue right here, and then we're just going to set this wing on here. And it's going to want to move on me. Okay. We will take this piece and just set that on there, make it more level. There. So you want to just make sure your wing is, the notch is lined up with the body of the airplane. And just leave that on there. And once that's all dry, everything should work real well. So that's pretty much it with this video. It's a very easy airplane to make. And I usually make 25, 30 or more of these planes at once. So that is all glued. When that's dry, that'll be all real nice. So what I want to tell you now, I'm going to have a link to this pattern of this plane in my description. I'm not a professional pattern maker, so I'm going to do the best I can to have a link. You can print this out. It's got the body and the wing and the little notch right here. Print that out. You can enlarge it. You can make it smaller if you like. One thing I want to say is this hole right here, you may have to adjust this hole as far as up and down. Usually what I say for toys, you always want to make sure when you put wheels or pick wheels for your toys that there's enough wheels sticking below your toy so it actually rolls. So that hole, you'll have to make sure is in the right place for whatever size your wheel you use. These are 1.25" wheels. That's what I'm using on these. As far as that goes, make yourself some templates. I always say that with all my videos. I make templates. I do all the parts for a plane. I write all the information on the template, all the sizes, everything I need for it. Here's the pattern for the actual body of the plane. I got the size of the lumber, the size of the hole, everything marked out on it. So the next time you want to make an airplane, you got all this pattern to go by. Even with the propeller here, 1/4 inch by 3/4 by 2.5 inches. It's all written on here. You just got to grab this. What I do is I make my templates. I have a Ziploc bag here. I mark it baby plane. I put all them parts in here, and then I put them in a filing cabinet. So I got all the information in one place. As far as the wing goes, as far the wing and propeller, I said you could just use a 3/4 inch board, cut it in half. You have your pieces, or you can use a 2x4 or 2x6. They're 1.5" wide. You can just cut your wings out of that. Pretty much, I think that is it. It's not a, like I said, it's not a very hard project to do. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and ring that bell, because I will have more videos out for some other real neat toys. So that way when I come up with a video, you get notified. So I think that will cover this video. And like I say, every once in a while, roll your wheels to make sure they're not sticking with the glue and everything. Make sure your propeller turns. And once that's dry, that'll make a really nice little airplane. So we'll see you on the next video. I got some good ones coming up. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.